Yeah, got it. Hey guys, so I want to talk about Urbanite today. And Urbanite is basically a fancy way of saying broken up concrete. It's it's stuff that you can get from either sidewalks or driveways or somebody's broken out patio. Oftentimes it'll be broken up by a demolition crew, thrown into a trailer, taken to the dump, and at the dump they recycle it into smaller pieces and tumble it, and then they can recycle it into other products such as concrete again, or as a base material, or fill gravel. But Urbanite is a great material if you are willing to take the time to work with it. So at the end of the day, Urbanite is basically a free material that you can use in replacement of, say, masonry pavers. You can use it to do a patio, you could use it to do a fire pit, you could do it to do a pathway. So if you're willing to put the labor in, you can basically have a free project. It is a lot of work, but so is other things that you do to your landscape. And here are 4 ways that you can use it to save on your project. So this client had a bunch of broken concrete just left over on the property. They wanted to do something with it. And so because they have a big slope, I wanted to take the broken concrete and use it on the slope to kind of make some like vertical, almost like soil does if there's like an earthquake or topography, how it changes. So I want to take all the broken concrete that's now laying horizontal and I want to put it on a vertical, probably tilt it just a little bit. And we're going to do 1, 2, and 3 outcroppings of this Urbanite on the slope, and it's either going to look like a snake weaving through or just a cool like architectural detail of some sort. So first things first, I had a pile of soil built up a little bit on the slope to give me the right elevation so I can play with these pieces of Urbanite. I want to start in the center and I'm going to dig the butt into the soil just to kind of hold it there, and then really just the weight of the other pieces of Urbanite are going to hold them in place. Eventually I do want to add a tilt to it, so I'll start working my way into a tilt, but first of all, I'm really just kind of experimenting and seeing how these go together. So I decided to just place them in the soil, digging them into the slope, but you could also mortar them in place if you really want to make sure that there's no budging. However, gravity is holding these into the slope and they actually make a really cool retaining wall. Okay, so I'm going to make an Urbanite patio area. So basically I'm going to space them out where I want them. The guys are going to come back with some DG, level them, and then push the DG in between them. You can go a lot of different methods with this. You can go like full on, like dig out a few inches, put in some base material, level it, drop these things in. But for what we're doing here, it's kind of like a mid-range. I got the material, the ground's level enough. The Urbanite is super heavy, so it doesn't really kick around. I'm going to drop it in and just like kind of level it as needed and fill in the DG in between, and that's going to be sufficient for this garden area. Try not to have more than a 4-inch gap if you can help it. Triangles are your best friend because these fit in all the nooks and crannies. And then when you're looking at your concrete, I'm lucky because these are only about 2.5 inches thick, so they're easier to move than a concrete sidewalk, which is usually 4. But sides, this is the side that was up, this is the side that was down below, and look at all this cool texture it has on it. So when I can, I'm flipping it up this way because it looks more like a flagstone, which is a more expensive material than just my plain broken concrete. Ugh, got it. Look at all that character. I love the blemishes. I think it gives it a special kind of look. It's rugged, it's charming. You might be wondering why I have a big rectangle. That's a future planter. Okay, so now that all the Urbanite is laid out, we are going to start just shoveling in some decomposed granite on top. And like I said, we're going to just fill it in the joints and then lift them up and level them to each other as we need to. So what do you guys think? I'm really happy with how it came together. I think it's informal. It's not too difficult. They can get a little heavy. I went with more of a natural edge for the pathway because I think it's more true to the form of this Urbanite, and it also gives nice little pockets to plant in. All right, using Urbanite or recycled concrete for a retaining wall. This basically is our retaining wall, and it allowed me to get about 6 extra feet of usable space in my parents' yard so we could have a fire pit right above it, or else this upper yard would have been a lot shorter and sloped. So the retaining wall gave us more usable space. It was a free material that I got. We did the labor. It is kind of labor intensive, but overall it was a very affordable project that gave us a lot of usable space with this yard. Here's a few things to keep in mind. You probably want to keep the height of your retaining wall fairly low. The same ideas you'd use for like a dry stack nursery block wall. You're usually keeping those under 2.5 feet in general, definitely under 3 feet, because structurally they're going to be kind of similar. This one we did a concrete footing, so we dug out the area that we wanted the wall. We poured some concrete, and then we set our first layer of Urbanite into that layer. After we got that nice and level, we ended up just continuing to stack and using mortar in between. But this is totally optional. You don't have to use mortar in between. We decided to do it, but you could also dry stack it. One thing you want to definitely keep in mind is having some drainage or some water relief, because you don't want to block up this whole wall and not have water to go, because it's going to build up behind that wall, causing it to fail. So there are certain areas like this little crack right here. This allows water to go through. There's another one down here. Now again, this is if you're mortaring. If you're dry stacking it, the water's going to find its way through the imperfections of the pieces. But we also left some bigger ones out here, so you can put succulents in some of them. You can see that it brings a very recycled feel, but it's also a cool, like, urban and modern feel. If you did this and actually cut the pieces of Urbanite into more organized pieces, you can get a very modern look with this as well, which is cool because it's basically a free material, and if you do the labor, you can get a lot of bang for your buck. It is labor intensive if you do decide to hire somebody to do it. Just the pieces are a little heavy. Most of them are between 12 to 18 inches because it's big enough to kind of hold its own, but not too big that's really hard to move and taking up too much space. So this is one idea of using Urbanite. I think it was very useful, and it's affordable as heck. Here's another idea for you: using broken concrete for a dry stacked fire pit. This one is super simple, probably the easiest one yet. We're actually working on a television show for Layla Ali on this one, and there was a concrete pad they didn't want me to break out because I thought it'd be too much work, and I was like, no, I'll break it out in an hour, let me do it. And they did, and then we recycled that concrete into this fire pit area. You'll notice that it's dry stack, which basically means that it's just the Urbanite stacked on top of each other with nothing in between to hold it together. It's totally fine for a wood burning fire pit. If we were going to run gas or propane, I would probably recommend mortaring this together, but this is perfect for an informal fire pit. In fact, the little voids of space in between all of the pieces of Urbanite can actually be beneficial for helping to radiate heat outside of the fire pit, making it a nice cozy area. We went a little bold with the ruby red paint color and the golden pineapple on the wall, but I do think that they actually match well with the rough and rugged Urbanite fire pit. So hopefully that's helpful information about Urbanite. Again, it's an affordable material that you can use in replacement of other products you might buy. It brings a really kind of rustic and recycled feel to the yard, which I think can be quite beautiful if done well. You do need to be careful though. If you do it not well, it can look garbagey, so do it good. Anyways, hope you got something out of this video. Go ahead and ask some questions below, and let me know if you like it by giving it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe. Banjo and I would appreciate it. Right, Banjo? Yeah, we would. Yes, we would. Yes, we would. And here's a bonus Urbanite example. Somebody's using it to retain their slope in front of a beach. Might not be the prettiest, but it's definitely functional, and I'm sure they got it for free. Ciao!